hour in New York, and we're covering breaking news this morning coming out of Colorado. The town of Aurora, Colorado, which is about 12 miles to the east of Denver, is a scene of a shooting this morning.
Top story this afternoon, a 9-year-old girl accidentally shoots and kills her instructor at a shooting range in northwestern Arizona. An unbelievable accident that's making national headlines.
Straight to that terrifying and really mystifying story breaking overnight. Police in Santa Barbara, California, dealing with 4 separate crime scenes right now in a bustling area filled with shops and restaurants.
Authorities are calling the bloody attacks a planned mass killing.
It is just coming across the wires here, reading straight from it. Connecticut State Police responding to reports of a shooting, we're told, at Newton Elementary School.
It's happened again. Another mass shooting in America. This time just south of the White House and the Capitol, at our country's oldest naval facility, the Washington Navy Yard.
There is even one thing that we can do to prevent any of these events. We have a deep obligation, all of us, to try.
He puts you here and then he runs around with a big turn.
Gun control history in the United States dates back to the early 1900s when gun control was first implemented. The National Firearms Act of 1934 was the first federal gun control law passed, which taxed manufacturers on selling machine guns and sawed-off shotguns. The act also established a national registry for all sales to be recorded in. After the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the Gun Control Act of 1968 was passed, which has become the main federal gun law. The Act of 1968 expanded the licensing requirements of more guns and required more detailed record keeping. In addition, felons, drug users, and mentally ill people were prohibited from buying guns. Background checks weren't mandatory before 1993, and there were and still are ways to avoid the system. There are many complaints from gun dealers and gun owners that the Act of 1968 was impeding on their Second Amendment right. In response, Congress passed the Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986. This act was a revision of the Gun Control Act and included fewer restrictions on gun sales. The liberals and conservatives present two main sides on the gun control debate. Each side has their own arguments about what the United States should do to combat the gun problem plaguing the country. Each side presents differing and valid arguments. However, only an agreement on legislation is the answer to solving this problem. The liberals believe that individuals do not need guns for protection, which many gun owners claim as the reason to have firearms, and instead, they believe local and federal government agencies are there to protect the public. The liberals hope to pass new gun control legislation as soon as possible before another tragedy happens. In the legislation, they hope to limit the type of guns that can be bought, increase background check criteria, and ultimately limit the ability of criminals to obtain guns. The proposed background checks would include diagnosed depression records, mental health center admissions, and previous violence. On the other side of the debate are the conservatives that ultimately believe that the more guns in the hands of citizens will result in less crime. They believe that by passing additional gun control legislation, it will not lower gun crime rates. It will, however, influence people to obtain firearms illegally due to all of the restrictions. The debate over the Second Amendment has been happening for a little more than a decade now, and both sides want legislation focusing on separate ideas, but only with some agreement will the gun control debate be resolved. The citizens of the United States have had to deal with countless mass shootings over the years, and in order to prevent another one from happening, government officials must come to a compromise.